Hello and welcome to State Scoop TV. I'm Jake Williams. Our guest today is Michael Cockrill. He's the Chief Information Officer for the state of Washington. How you doing, Michael?
I'm doing great, Jake. How are you?
I'm doing well. So Michael, we're talking priorities. We're talking about what you guys are working on, day in and day out in your states. So what are some of the top priorities that you guys are working on in Washington?
Well, there's a bunch of technical priorities, but I got to tell you, they're not anywhere near as important as the people priorities. Most of my time these days are spent on workforce issues and on issues around how do we influence our authorizing environment. So there's a bunch of operational priorities as well. We're putting in a new ERP. We're really working on our project management and trying to move forward the agile culture. But mainly, it is about two really big things. One of them is really workforce development. How do we attract new people? How do we keep new people? And how do we get the most of the people that we've got? And then the other one is how do we get the authorizing environment, the people who decide where the dollars are going to be spent, to trust that we're doing our job right, to be supportive when we say, yeah, we're going to have to spend some money on this because it's going to, in the long run, feed more babies and clean more streams. And then how do we really create the context for a long-term, durable cultural change? How do we look at our workforce and say, you need to be more empowered, you need to think different, because it's really, the technology problems will take care of themselves if you've got people who are engaged and who are empowered to do what they're there for, which is public service.
So you've been gracious enough to talk to us on video for the past couple conferences, many conferences, probably too many to count.
9. The answer is 9.
Is it 9?
This is my, 8. 8 is
Wow.
my 8th NASCIO,
Okay.
yeah.
And so we've probably talked for most of them.
Right.
But what aspect of state IT are you most passionate about? What keeps you coming to work every morning?
There are, again, it's the same two things, really. One of them is about the people. I have this unique position that I'll only have the honor of doing for 3 or 4 years. And I think my private sector background, where culture and culture development is just absolutely key to being competitive, really have an opportunity to apply some of those lessons learned and coming back to work every day to try and, again, create that context for a durable cultural change. That's awesome. Then the other part is, as technology becomes more of the underpinnings of not just every service government delivers, but how our citizens interact in the world, what we do in IT becomes more and more relevant to the business of government. Because the way I think about it is IT is there to support the business of whatever it is that you're doing, whether it's public or private sector. But in the public sector, the business of state government is we make public policy. And IT is more and more becoming core to public policy. So my role, I'm lucky enough to be an advisor to the governor and to the legislature on the 2 or 3 major areas where technology and public policy overlap. Security, digital privacy, the Internet of Things, and that part of the job is sort of a new and emerging part of the job, because most of the time IT is in a background role, but in this case, in more and more, particularly cybersecurity is becoming a matter of public policy. And you can tell because people keep writing laws about it, and that's how you can tell.
So let's stay on that idea of kind of things that are new and emerging and how it's changed your role. You guys you were the first person I heard in the state IT community to talk about drones. Mm-hmm. You guys were one of the first states to have a chief privacy officer. Where has Washington really led in innovation, and where do you see that taking you going forward?
Well, I think you brought up 2 areas that I'm particularly focused on. To say that we are raising the consciousness around cybersecurity today isn't particularly innovative, but 4 years ago when I first took this job and I said, look, security blots out the sun relative to the rest of issues in state government, I see that that's really coming true. And the natural evolution of it is that move from people not just caring about how do we keep our IT data secure in the, in the executive branch of state government, to state government taking the lead on a statewide and very soon to be, I think, nationwide approach to keeping our country safe. I think, one of the interesting insights that I've had in the last couple of years stems from the fact that in state government we don't classify our data. And the reason that we don't is because that classification, that whole idea came from the military, and states don't have a role in, in national defense as a general rule. But that's changing, and the speed of that change is accelerating. States are, particularly as it relates to critical infrastructure, states are becoming more and more key to national defense. And so state governments are going to start to, you're going to start to see an evolution of state governments and state legislatures when they actually have to play a role in defending the homeland in a very real way. Because when the bad guys come for us, it's not going to be a kinetic attack first. It's going to be the power and the water and the sewer systems. And those are all in the purview of the states. So I think that that cybersecurity aspect of looking at the entire state, that's an area where Washington continues to be innovative, and I'm particularly interested in.
That's awesome. And so, we've talked so many times, and the one question I don't think I've ever actually asked you is, what does innovation mean to you, and what makes the work that you're doing innovative?
That's an interesting question. I think innovation to me is, first of all, there's sort of two ways to innovate. One of them is the thunderclap. Got a brand new idea, never seen it before, et cetera. That doesn't happen very often, and it happens even less often in state government. Right. The other one is the systematic, almost algorithmic approach to making things incrementally better one tiny step at a time. So that's the part of innovation that I think is most relevant and what we try and focus on in state government. And it comes in, oftentimes it comes in just relatively mundane ways. One of the most innovative things that my department has done in the last couple of years is deliver our IT billing online. We moved from delivering bills in pallets of 11 by 18 bifold paper to delivering them on CD, to now people just open up their browser and can get all that detail online. And the amount of capacity that relatively mundane change has freed up is enormous. I mean, we did a study, the governor requires when you do, it was a lean project, right? And so we did a study of just how much it saved our department in creating the bill. It was over $500,000 a year just in creating the bill. What we didn't do is go to the 140 different agencies and find out how much they saved. But those numbers would be big, but even more importantly, the free up capacity to make those people be adding more value to the citizens rather than tearing apart 11 by 18 trifold paper. It's like I say, it seems mundane. Turns out that just applying technology in the right places and the right priorities can be really incrementally making it better day to day, innovative.
And so kind of on a less positive note, I mean, what are the challenges out there that are keeping you up at night? What are the challenges out there that are really stressing you out and kind of scaring you a bit?
It's too much of a cliche to talk about cybersecurity in that context because it's frankly just boring. But it's a cliche for a reason, right? We, as we were just saying, the stakes in cybersecurity are rising dramatically. You're not just worried about losing your credit card information. We're now worried about the power grid and whether water gets delivered and how the banking system and transportation system stays safe. So that definitely keeps me up at night. That, that's one of those big sort of macro systemic concerns. But on the more day-to-day, mundane, the frustration, the things that stop us from moving forward, that goes back to this baked-in culture in government, where because one of the societal problems that we solve is that we move relatively slowly. We're supposed to move relatively slowly. You don't want your government to be out on the bleeding edge, trying a bunch of random new things. You want to do things that work. Well, the problem with that is that in technology, if you don't keep up with it, you get way behind the curve really quickly. And the culture in most state governments, I would postulate, is the answer to most questions is no. And the rationale is because we've always done it that way. And changing that default from no to maybe, or is it, how risky is it? Expanding that people's willingness to take a little bit of risk, that is the biggest impediment to keeping up with that curve. And the cost of getting behind that curve is enormous. That's another one of those things that keep me up at night. I mean, the state of Washington has about a $4 billion backlog if we were to go update our existing systems that we ourselves classify as legacy, where the definition of legacy is it doesn't solve the business problem as well as we could. We've got a $4 billion backlog to get that done. So it's tough to, it's a big drag on everything else that you do.
Wow. Michael, thanks for being with us.
Sure, my
Appreciate
pleasure.
it. Thank you so much.
You bet.
For more information about what's going on in Washington, check out statescoop.com and subscribe to the Daily Scoop newsletter. Again, I'm with Michael Cockrill, the CIO for the state of Washington. I'm Jake Williams. Thanks for watching.